Hello, welcome to Making Photos. I'm Ian Butterfield. It's that time again where I go through some of your photos and provide some feedback and react to what you've been photographing. If you want your photographs featured on one of these, there's two ways to achieve that. The best way is to email your images to feedback@makingphotos.co.uk. Alternatively, you can post your images to my Facebook group, the link for which is down below and on the screen now. And from there, I will pick some of my favorites to talk about. But it's better if you can email them to the email address, because I've got more information about your shots, such as your shooting data and higher resolution, so that I can give you better feedback. So let's get started and get straight into Lightroom, where I go through this week's crop of the images. We've got a total of 15 images to have a look at today, and I'm just going to go through them in the order they appear on the screen now. So let's have a look at our first image. This is by Sonia Holmes. It's one of her German images. It's of a barge on one of the rivers. More than that, I don't know. I know, Sonia, you provided more information than that on Facebook, but I'm trying to let the image speak for itself. And let's start by the things I really like about it. I like that strong diagonal that the barge is creating. I like the way that leads us into the image. It leads us through the image around the meander of the river. It's a nice sky on there. It's an interesting sky. I'm not sure whether it's real or fake on this one. I know, Sonia, you sometimes replace the skies on your images. This one looks a little better than most, but round the hilltop, it does look a little bit odd. I can't categorically say that it's not a real sky, that it's a fake sky, but there's something looks a little bit off to me. Again, as I've often commented, this is because I used to work for the Met Office, so I spent a lot of time just looking at clouds and what they appear like. I'm really undecided whether this one's real or fake, which probably means it's a pretty good. If it is a fake, it's a pretty good one. If it's a real one, it's just a little bit unusual. So let's move on. No, nothing really to pick you up on that one. It's a nice shot and it works well. Next, we've got an image from John Barton. It's one of his Blackpool images. A couple of things to say about this. Now, first of all, what I do like about it is it's nice lighting for the time of day. You've got the right time of day with it. We are seeing effectively the restrictions of your choice of using some of the lower quality cameras that you have available to you. I know you have, I think, either a mirrorless or a DSLR, but this I think is taken with one of your pocket cameras. And can you see up here in the top left of the image, pixelation of the sky? And I think that will be due to the sensor size and the way that the image processing has been done. A shot like this really needs to be, to do it justice, needs to be with with a higher resolution camera, and it needs to be shot in RAW because you've pushed the background, you've tried to bring out the colors in there, and we've got this banding in the sky. We've got a lot of noise and banding in the clouds as well. A little bit of noise in, I'm not sure what this noise, yeah, I think it is noise rather than dust on the sensor there. You've gone to the trouble of doing some post-processing on it to bring the colors out, maybe a touch too far on the saturation, but I still can't understand why, if you're going to the trouble of doing all that, why you haven't corrected the verticals on this. The tower's definitely leaning. What I do like about it are the sculptures here acting as a lead-in and framing device for the tower, drawing the eye to the tower. I do like the lighting of the time of day. It's not a bad image, don't get me wrong, but I want to push you further, John, because there's so much more you could achieve with this image by picking up on a few of those things. And I really want to encourage you to use your better cameras, rather than some of these with the smaller sensor, which aren't giving you the results. And from my experience dealing with photographers who have worked with lower quality cameras, when they have had access to a better camera, years further on, they've regretted it. And so I will encourage you to take your better camera out with you. Andy May on this one, it's a water feature image. It's water going over the stones. I can't remember where he said it was, but I do remember, Andy, you saying it was a 3-second exposure and you wondered whether the exposure was too long. I guess it's down to personal taste. I actually quite like it with this long exposure. I don't think 3 seconds is too long. It gives a different effect to your half-second or the freeze the action type shots. So it's down to personal choices. I quite like it. I can see you've cropped out any white sky that might have been there, and I believe there probably would have been some just looking at the reflections. And in fact, you've made the right choice, because when photographing waterfalls like this, as you know, it's always better to do it when it's a dull, overcast day, because you'll get better results with the water, and that looks nicer. You've got nice foreground interest here. The stream leads you in from the top left down or from the bottom up, depending on which way you wish to view an image on there. It's a nice shot. I think this is another one of Andy's. So what can I say about this? I like the tree. It's a good choice of subject. It's a nice sort of sunrise, sunset in there. It's good that you've cropped in, but you've cropped just the edge of the tree off here. And I would like to see it balance between the two sides on the image. I do wonder whether if you shot from lower down and got this bright line coming through here lower down on the tree, whether that would be a bit more effective with the dark tree against the sky. I'm not sure. It's something I would have experimented with. It feels a bit odd where that line is through the tree to me, and I can't say anything more than that. I don't think you're wrong with it. It just feels a little strange. It's a good shot. I like the fact that you've got the texture of the tree there. There's nothing overexposed on it. You've brought out the detail in the shadow areas. So a really good shot. Another John Barton one here. And I quite like this one, John. Obviously created with very much a fisheye lens. I suspect this is a frame off your 360-degree camera. Possibly a still image from a video. What I would say about it, especially if it's a video, is your choice of frame could do a little bit of improvement. I like the chap looking at the interpretation board. I think that's a good thing to work with on here, but we've got this extra head on his shoulder, which just looks silly, to be honest. The other person, the guide by the looks of things here, is sort of looking into space. I don't know whether there was a point when he was looking towards the person reading the interpretation board, but that would have been a better frame to pick on the shot. But the distortion has worked well with it, and the framing. I don't normally go for subjects bang in the middle, as you well know. But on this occasion, I think it's worked because of the distortion effect with it. So nice shot. Difficult to tell what the quality of the image is like in terms of pixels. I suspect it will be a bit grainy. For screen resolution, yeah, you'll be fine on that. This one's from Rick Bradbury. It was a shoot in his studio and playing around with shadow. And you can see here how Rick has effectively created a column of light for the subject to be looking through, and he's only illuminated half the face. There's just a little bit of light on the side in shadow. I like the effect of that. I would have gone the other way and have illuminated the half that Rick's got in shadow and put into shadow the other half. Why is that? Because I'd like to see the detail on the hands, and I think going that way might have worked better with it. But it's a nice shot. It's intriguing. The lighting is unusual. It draws you in, and the very thoughtful expression on the subject's face makes it an interesting image. And it's a style of lighting that I want to experiment more with myself. I've not done much on this sort of style where you deliberately constrain the light. That's worked well. I like it. Another one here. This one is by Tony Bauer, and it was shot here in my studio as part of a studio hire that Tony and some other photographers did just a couple of weeks ago. Again, it's the same sort of idea of the column of light. Now, I know, Tony, you're playing here with low key, and I know your style is a little bit different to mine, but it does feel as though it's a little bit too much in the darker side for my liking. I love the lighting effect, but if we look here at the histogram, the top half, there's nothing there. So I would be tempted just to bring that up a little bit. And I don't want to go too far because I don't want the model to be overexposed, but we just want a little bit at that top end, I think. Maybe something like that, and I would be tempted possibly just to push the contrast a little bit as well. I would go with something like that, which to my mind emphasizes that column of light effect that little bit more. I love the shadow. Just a couple of things with something like this. The shadow looks very statuesque. But one thing to think about, and I'm sure you probably did this, and that is just to think about the model's positioning, where you can get the arms visible and get more of a shape on the shadow, make the shadow a little bit more interesting. I do like the fact that it's very statuesque, and you've got effectively a waistline effect coming in. And it does work, but I'd like to see somewhere the arms are more visible in there, particularly if I can show you with the cursor. If you've got this left arm out a little bit, you could have actually had just the shape of the torso with a little bit of light between the torso and the arm on there, which I think might have given an interesting effect. So experiment with that kind of thing with this type of lighting would be my suggestion. But it's a lovely shot. I do wonder what it would be like in black and white. And I think black and white also works incredibly well with this. And in fact, now I've just seen it in black and white, I think that's my preference for the shot. We've got an image here from Bob Tovey of the Thames Barrier. Again, lovely lighting and nice sky. Looks as though it's just after some rain. It works really well with this. You've chosen the right time of day to create the shot. The glint of the light off the barrier works well. The positioning of the horizon along the 1/3 line also works really well with this. There's very little I would change on that shot. Again, another version of it. I think I like, in some ways, I like this composition even more, but just be careful because I think you might be starting to clip on the clouds there. Let me just have a look at the histogram just on the edge. Now, I don't know whether that's that's Facebook causing it. The one thing I would caution a little bit on this is I think it's a touch oversaturated. So I'm just going to bring that saturation back very slightly. Doesn't need to come back much. I think something like that works well. And it might also be an interesting black and white. Yeah, I like the black and white on that. I think that's quite powerful. And I think it would work better with a vignette to add to it. Quite a strong vignette, I think I'll go for with this. Something like that. So I think the vignetted version is, and black and white version, I think is a little bit more powerful with it. I would possibly have played around a little bit more in post on these clouds. A little bit of bringing out the detail in there, just so we can see a bit more detail in some of the brighter areas. Most of it's fine, but just this little area, adjustment brush just on that area, just to try and bring that out, I think would have helped. This, I happen to know, is 3 images combined together. An interesting shot. This time, I think it is a little bit oversaturated, but I think it's actually worked with this image. At first, I thought there was something a little bit odd about the verticals on it, but the more I look at it, I think the verticals are fine. I think there's just a bit of an optical illusion going on with it. I like the reflection, and that's worked well. The fact that the building's of a period and it's slightly tatty adds something to it. I wonder what it would have been like when it was in its full glory. I noticed the sign says that the site's been acquired. I hope that's not going to be pulled down because it's a lovely sort of Art Deco style building. I think it could make some lovely office space. All right, Ruskin, your tiger shot. This one, I think, is a little bit underexposed, and I've seen this a lot with your images. I can't give you any more feedback because you just aren't sending me the high resolution images. I can only pull them off Facebook. I really need to see some of the original files of yours to be able to help you much further, because I'm seeing the same problems over and over again. And I don't know whether that's how you're processing the images, a problem with your exposure, or what. So if you could I ask this every time I give you feedback, if you could just send me to feedback@makingphotos.co.uk a couple of your original files, preferably raw files if you've got them, and I can give you some proper feedback, because you're a great photographer, but I'm just noticing one or two things. I think we just need to sort out that exposure problem. So let me go into the develop module, and you can see here the top end, it's just not where it should be. If I just bring this up a little bit, I'm going to increase the contrast a little bit, and maybe just a little bit on the, try and do it on the vibrance. I might have to just do a little bit on saturation as well, and we need a bit more clarity on it. I really can't tell because I've got low resolution here whether you're in focus. I have a feeling it's not quite in focus on the eyes, but I can't be 100% certain on that. Here I've got another image from Nick Luna. This one done with always on lighting. I love the colours on it, and I know you've used a soft filter on the camera to give that slightly dream quality to it. I just want to pick you up on a couple of things, Nick, that actually spoil this image. It's a great image, but a couple of things. Just cropping out the foot at the bottom and just losing the end of the chaise longue on there. You just need that little bit more in the shot for this to work. If for some reason you can't, then you need to go in tighter. So if I just crop this a different way, if I come in much tighter on it, and that way it's very deliberately, actually square crop, yeah, it becomes very deliberately a tighter image, something like that. I don't like the fact that the fan's now bang in the middle with that crop, but you get the idea. If you came in tighter on it, maybe something like that, I think works better than that just cropping out at the end there. I mean, even that, I'd still like to see more of that chaise longue. There's another issue I'm picking up a little bit with this soft focus that you're using. It's an interesting technique, but I'm not 100% sure it works with this lighting. I'm a big fan of sharper images. That's just how I tend to work. So I'd love to have seen the same shot done both with and without the soft focus filter. This one is, yeah, it's an Andy May one. It's a nice shot, Andy, but it's terribly underexposed. If you just look here at the top end of that histogram, we've lost a lot of information on there. So we just need to bring that up into play. I think the horizon's straight. I think it's the rocks having a weird sort of optical illusion effect on there. Let me just try something with that horizon. I think the horizon's going along there. Now, is that straight? Oh, if it was off, it was only off by a minor amount. So I'm not gonna complain about your horizon. It's a lovely shot. I like the fact we've got foreground interesting rocks. We've got this sweep round. It's almost the golden spiral, drawing us into the image to the arch. So the eye comes round here to this point where the arch is. So yeah, the key thing was just that it was just that little bit underexposed. Personally, I'd like to try and get a little bit more blue in the sky. I don't know whether I can use the Magic Select Sky tool on this. It's got something with that. That's the clarity. More blue, and I want dark saturation. Saturation's what I need. Something like that. And so we go from before to after. And I think that works nicely with those just sort of little subtle changes to it, Andy. Sonia, another one of yours. Now, I'm assuming this isn't taken from a drone or plane. I suspect you're up on a hillside opposite. You've used the a tilt shift effect, and I think you've done it in post-production rather than having a tilt lens on the camera. It makes it look more like a model of this location, which I quite like. I don't dislike it. Nice sort of statue in the foreground. That's our focal point, our point of interest. Good decision to crop out any bright sky which might draw the eye away from the subject. The whole thing works really well. And this one, Colin posted in response to Sonia. So this is a view of the statue that you can see here. And just a little bit of feedback for Colin on this image. I like the black and white conversion. It gets round the problem of the white sky to a certain extent. I think a pace further to your right would have meant that the gentleman on horseback, his face wasn't partially obscured by the neck of the horse. I like the quirky angle with it. That works well, but then I like quirky angles. which I think was part of what you were commenting about when you uploaded it. And that is the feedback for this week's 15 images. So thank you to everyone who's submitted. Once again, please email your images to feedback@makingphotos.co.uk. And I've talked about various techniques in here. If you want to take your photography to the next level, then the video that's on the screen is all about a deep dive into rule of thirds. So click on that now. I'll see you in that next video. And until next time, thanks for watching and keep making great photos. Bye for now.